Hey guys. Alright, so let's go ahead and start with the chassis. This is going to be for the Panther T14R, the unlimited rotation. So what I've done here is I've bolted this all together. This is just the one I've been testing out, and so you got your fine threaded M3s, socket head, excuse me. These ones going at an angle, so they're quite long, and I didn't really want to take it back apart because of the fact that they're fine thread, and when you do fine thread in plastic, they're good for, you know, one go, maybe a couple different goes. Just depends on how you're doing it. But if you're using it to tighten things down, you don't really want to take it apart again, per se. So, and then also it's painted, and I don't really want to get all the cracks and lines in here. Anyways, you have a 1/4 inch rod going through here. What it is a 7 mil hole that I did, and I printed both of these without support to make it easy on getting the rod in here. Now if you cut the rod, what I would do is cut the rod maybe a little long, which is what I did, and then I slid it in and kind of made a couple marks on there, and then kind of left the mark on there just to make sure that I wasn't cutting it short, because I didn't want it to wobble in here. I really wanted it to kind of stay, and you can see that it is quite sturdy for a 3D print. And then I bolted the geared motor down. This is 27 RPM. So this guy just kind of slides in here. It has just enough resistance on there to where it doesn't want to just pop out. So I leave it usually about right here, just about right there. Give it a little bit, and I found that these work a lot better when there's no set screw and you kind of press it on. It's a lot better. So you'll notice too in the parts list that there's going to be 2 different size M4s for these. I believe one is 10 mil, and then the other one is 15 or 12 mil, one of the two. But just pay attention to that. You don't want to use the wrong screws, and you can tighten those down pretty good. It's about a 1 mil. If you printed it with 5 layers, top and bottom, then you'd have 1 mil on each side, so you'd be pretty sturdy. So that's it for the chassis. We'll go ahead and do the dump bed just before we do the frame. So the dump bed, you'll notice that there's these slots right here. These are going to be your M2 by 10 millimeter self-tapping screws, and I use socket head. I had to grind these out. In your guys' files, you'll notice that there's grooves that you need. You may need to file them down just a little bit, but I believe I made them nice and deep. So the sides go on with the same screws that you would use here, the M2 by 10, all the way around. These in here are M2 by 6s, but I believe you could use M2 by 10 as well. It doesn't really matter up there. And then up here, these are M2 by 6. I didn't want it to go through here, so, and these are just button head. These are button head. And then these are M3 by 10 down here, button head. So once you get that together, you can paint it just like I did. I painted it when it was all together, so some of my stuff is a little off. And then that's that. It sits at a good angle, so the dirt doesn't really come out unless you're going up a hill. And then this, I printed in 2 pieces. You can see the seam. Didn't come out too well, but for testing purposes and the fact that I was really eager and excited to play with it and use it, I printed it in 2 pieces. You have 2 options to print it in 2 pieces or 1 piece, whatever your preference is. If you have a lot of patience, print it in 1 piece. You'll have a little bit of support to clean up, but once it's painted, shouldn't really notice it. So that's that. So what we'll do is we can go ahead and put this on now. So you want to be careful when you're messing with this stuff down here. The way it was printed was kind of printed in layers in a sense, and I think if anybody has issues with it, I think what I'll end up doing is making it to where this part bolts into this part and then this part as well. So, but anyways, what I've been doing is using these 30 mil. I think they're 30 mil. Hold on. Yeah, so 30 mil button head M4s, And you'll notice that they'll slide through this and then through the hinge on the dump bed. You'll notice I'm not wiggling the dump bed, I was wiggling the screw. And then what happens is you can go ahead and you're not going to be able to hand tighten it like I am. When you first build it, you'll actually thread it into this one. But once you thread it in once, it's pretty easy, and you don't want it to be too tight. You want it to sit just snug, just like that. And you'll notice that the screw is long. It was set up to use bolt or nuts, but I didn't put those in yet. Wasn't too sure if there was even enough room, but this should be more than sufficient. It's not like it's completely rotating. And again, we don't want to wiggle this. We want to wiggle the screw. You can go and lift it up and down if you'd like, but we're actually already in there. So we'll go thread.
That's pretty wild.
You'll notice I'm using way too long of a screw here. I totally forgot to grab different screws. The proper length. But I think these will work out great. And then you'll notice that you now have a really nice tipping point. So this right here is a little thing on the real model. It's just like a little shackle to tie down to, maybe for towing and stuff. We used it the other day and it worked out pretty good. I thought it was just going to rip right out, but we actually were able to pull out one of the keen haulers that got stuck, and that was pretty cool. I thought that was pretty interesting. So that's it for the main portion of that part of the chassis. We'll talk about this guy first next. So when you do this, when you're putting all this together, you'll notice all these are the countersunk. Now here I accidentally drilled, this is supposed to be 5mm because it gets a through bolt, and then these are supposed to be 5mm, but what it is it's a 4mm hole, so you can thread in 5mm into these. And in what happened is I drilled this out for 5mm, drilled this out, and then for some odd reason I went and drilled these out. I don't know why, but anyways, I had to use nut certs. You won't have to use these unless you do what I did, which in theory you shouldn't have to. And then there's two pieces here. If you have the 3-piece model for smaller printers, you would just have more hardware inside here. And then your main supports, you have your motor support, not support, but like kind of like a motor guard. And then you have your middle main support that holds the ring gear, and then your rear support. I printed this in all 0.3, pretty much the chassis, and I didn't really file or sand this down. Again, I wanted to test and make sure everything worked. And then you can also see in the tracks here that the tracks were printed in 0.3, and I have some other ones that I'm waiting to put on, but I have to do a little bit more work on them. So you'd mount your motors at this point. You can mount them at any point, but I did it just so I can get the wires and such through. And then that would be it for that portion of it. All these are going to be, you're going to put all these in except for this one. You're not going to use. I still haven't taken it out, but for the wire cover, you're going to take that one out and use the screw for the other side. And then for this, what you're going to do on this back portion, you're going to go ahead and use the all thread. Go ahead and slide that in after you put your 35mm screws through your wheels. These wheels get a bearing on each side of them, and then the other side of the rocker here, you'll see here, I guess this would be a better way to do it. You'll see on these ones they get lock nuts, and then you get a bearing on this one portion, and then you get a washer on this side as well. I don't know if I put washers in the parts list, but I'll update it. And then this is going to be your limiter. This allows it to stop, so it can only pivot so much. It stops right there, so that helps. If it doesn't, if you don't have that, the TPU is actually quite grippy, and it just kind of grabs the wheel and makes it want it to rotate and spin. So anyways, you want to do that, you'll do both sides. Obviously, you're going to do this one twice, or 3 times, excuse me. And then on this other side, you'll notice that there's going to be 2 sets that just use this, and then 2 sets that use these. And this is going to be a 20 mil, 25. That gets screwed into the frame here, and this other side just gets the bolt that goes through. And then your idler wheel up here is going to have a bearing, and then a button head that goes up into there as well. And you'll see that the tracks, when you first print the tracks, they're actually nice and tight, so they won't do this. But now that I've used it a little bit, they're actually on the roller, which I'm quite excited with. At first it didn't want to do that, and I got a little scared that I didn't do that good of a job, but now you can see that this came out pretty clean. To get the track on, what I do is I'll come from this backside. You'll see the limiter, or not the limiter, but the tension on here. You can obviously adjust it, but this left side needs to have something on it. But anyways, you can do it by messing with that. But you push this over and then pry this off. Sometimes you have to roll it a little bit, and then that would come off. And put it back on. All I'll do it is I'll squish the teeth in here and I'll roll this over. All this would be together, but yeah, because I put your rollers and stuff on before you start putting the tracks on, and then once you get your rollers on, you can get the tracks on pretty easily. And then you do the same for the other side, and then once you get the tracks on the other side, I still have to do a couple things to this one before I put it back together. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave it like this. But once you get those done, you never want to lift from this point, because again, this is where everything's going to be holding on, so you want to try and grab it from down here. So this is going to be your front portion, which goes over the motors. So once you get all that done, you'll go ahead and set this on here. You may have to wiggle it a little bit. So there's that. And then you'll see that there is a little bit of play. It's just the nature of it. So once you get that done, probably be best to do it without the dump bed. Maybe put that on afterwards. But once you get that done, you're going to go ahead and take your bolt, and then you're going to grind this down. You may have to make a mark. I don't really have an exact measurement. I just kind of ground it down. There's probably about 4 mil from the hole to the edge here. But once you grind that side down, you'll notice that it goes. Should have left the dump bed off. You notice it goes right in here, and it sits just like that. So normally you'd want a washer underneath the head, but this actually doesn't spin right here. It spins from underneath. I don't have a washer for underneath yet, but I do plan on adding one. So then you would let that go down, and you don't need to worry about holding that. Well, you will need to make sure to hold it so it doesn't move. But so then what you would do is come through here, and you may most likely want a washer there, but now I just cut this bolt to size. 55 millimeters is what I have in the plan. So I'm going to actually take this off and clean this up. Hopefully that doesn't want to fall. Yeah, it's just super filthy. Notice this bolt has a hole all the way through it, So I tried to design it with the slip ring in mind, but it couldn't find a slip ring, number one, that was small enough, and number two, that would a bolt that would fit, that would accommodate one of those turning motors. But I think with what we have going on here, it's going to work out. I mean, it has worked out for a number of sessions for myself. So, and it's been pretty wet here, so I've been running it with nothing but wet dirt and rocks. So once you get this in, go ahead and tighten it down. Now when you tighten this down, you don't want to go super tight. You want to like give it some, but what you would do is you wouldn't just tighten it with that. You would use this Loctite, blue Loctite 242, and it gives a nice grab, and it doesn't shake out whatsoever. But then you come up here and check, and if you can turn it like this, and then grab it, and then it doesn't wobble. Let's see if we can see it on the camera. But you see how it doesn't wobble? Like this edge is going to move no matter what, but I can't get it to wobble. So that seems good. And then there's that. So then what you would normally do is you would go ahead and stick your wires through here. Get these through, go all the way through. You're going to pull them out through here. Unfortunately, I had to remodel this because I didn't know why I didn't think about this, but the nut needs to have something to sit over, so I got to make this hole bigger. And then you would stick this in, and then put it through, screw it down. Obviously, get your wires all the way through, and then tuck this in right here and here, and then that would be solid. You'd be done. But for the sake of the video, I'll go ahead and just get everything up here. And I decided to use shielded wire just because of this whole portion right here. I didn't want to I just didn't want to mess anything up while I was getting everything in there, and then also I know that I can bend it and stuff, and it's not gonna fray or anything like that. So there's that. And then if you have the other side of the tracks on, you in theory would have a level and city model just like this.